Well, hello. So, this is my video companion to the State of the Union. I decided, what the hell? Let's just go ahead and put a video up as a companion to my post. You go ahead and read my post. I'm not actually going to read it as part of my video. I'm just going to talk about what is in that post. Basically, it's kind of a rundown of the State of the Union and the grade that I give the current Trump administration. And the grade that I give them is a D plus. That's it. That is all they deserve. Um, a lot of good things have gotten started, but there's also a lot of bad things. They started off with a bang, but then there's a lot of things that just didn't get completely handled. Epstein, that's one thing. And what a mess that turned out to be. My biggest gripe over the Trump administration over this far, I mean, they got off to a great start, and then things just kind of the wheels just kind of fell off the bus there for a while. Um, Everybody's getting excited about Doge, all the fraud that they were uncovering and everything, but then it wasn't followed up by any legislative action. So the Doge cuts were theater. None of them got rolled into the big beautiful bill, which we ended up actually spending just as much money, if not more. So that doesn't sit well with a lot of people, but they're making progress in a lot of other areas. There's lots of arrests happening, lots of crime being stopped, lots of fraud being uncovered. So that's all a good thing. But the big missteps have to do with, many cabinet members looking more like cheerleaders than the department heads that they are. My post kind of digs into that a little bit, but look, it is what it is. We can be disappointed by some of the games that are being played. It's also unveiling who isn't really fit for this job. And starting to turn out, it looks like Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino might not be up to it. Of course, Dan, of course, is now off of his little year-long stint in being the assistant deputy director. Now, he wasn't forced out. The thing is, if you read between the lines, if you know where to look, the whole agreement was for a year anyway. So this was not out of the ordinary at all. But look, they went on national TV. They went, oh, nope, this is it. Epstein didn't kill himself, or Epstein did kill himself, I should say. Or that was just like, what? Are you crazy? Yeah. And then, of course, not all the files. There's still a bunch out there, which still have to be compelled to get a hold of. I can't imagine it being any worse than the stuff we've seen already now. And that's my other point too. The thing is, we all know what was in there. We've all heard these stories for years, for decades even. This shit's been going on for 20 years. But, it is where it is. At least there's a whole bunch that have gotten released now. Looks like the royal family may be done. We'll see. We got a war brewing in Iraq. Well, I'm sorry, not Iraq. Iran. Sorry for that. I should know better, seeing I spent half my life in that area. Yeah, it's a mess. But I hear a lot of people also complain. It's like, well, I thought you were the peace president. Yeah, well, sometimes you got to make a little war to get to peace. I do believe that Trump really does want to set us up for the future, and that's why we went in and grabbed Maduro. Sorry, but when you're dealing with global politics, there's some funky shit that goes on. And at the rate that the Chinese and the Russians were kind of weaseling their way into the Caribbean, it's like, no, we can't have that off of our thing. So that's why we did what we did. Agree with it, disagree with it, whatever. It is what it is. Um, I'm not a big. I would much rather see peace. I'm sure President Trump would much rather see peace too. But you know, requires two people to get together and make things happen. And he's trying to make things happen, but Putin, Zelensky, all of this stuff, they're not making it easy for sure. And I don't want to get into Israel. I don't want to get into any of that stuff. That stuff is just all stuff that's been going on for years, and it's still going on and will continue to go on, maybe a little bit differently. The gist of my State of the Union post was to talk more about what's really going on. And this isn't Democrats, this isn't Republicans. That isn't the real fight. The real fight is really down to good and evil. Take that to where you will. You want to go down the religious road, and yeah, this is God against Satan, good against evil. That's all this is. You got the supposed good guys. Some of the good guys can be a little morally flexible, I guess you could say. And then you have the bad guys and those who are aligned with the bad guys. And I'm sure that we can now see stuff that I've known for a long time, but you had to be crawling around in the dirt to see some of this stuff. And yes, I have crawled around in a lot of dirt. Yes, and I have seen a lot of things. So none of this surprises me, and it really shouldn't surprise anybody. We all talk about the Epstein files and what's in them and who's implicated and all that kind of stuff. The thing is, it's pretty evident that everybody is. Everybody was at the trough of whatever it was that Jeffrey Epstein was selling, collecting, whatever he was doing. And we knew about it. We knew these things were happening, and yet we swept it under the rug time and time and time again. Well, now it's not being swept under the rug so much. And the thing is, it is we, the people, that are actually fighting back. And we're fighting back in ways that we're just getting this stuff done ourselves. Bottom line is the amount of open source intelligence that is available today is amazing. I mean, we have damn near just about as much information available to our fingertips that renders any newscast or anything like that completely irrelevant. There is nobody on the news today, nobody, that is telling you the truth, partly because maybe they know some of it's true, maybe they know some of it's true, or some of it's not true. But the bottom line is they have editors and they have other people telling them what to say. This is the script. This is what we do. It's all performative. You don't get anything real out of watching the news anymore. I haven't watched the news in years. I don't get my information that way. I get my information straight from the sources, just like anybody can now. And lots of people realize that. And they're like, hey, look, you know what? We're just going to do things and we're going to do them on our own. We are coming up with ways on our own to do things. And just look around, some areas. I mean, I mentioned some of them in my post. I'm going to even mention even some more over here. Let's look at the weather forecasting business. You know who the most popular weather forecaster is right now? He's a guy on YouTube called Ryan Hall. He's a one-man weather machine, and he does. That's where I get all my weather information. I don't watch the local news. I don't even have a local news station where I live. I'm out in the boonies, man. I'm too far away to get an over-the-air signal for anything. So I rely on the internet. I don't have a local station to tune into. Too far. So I get everything over the internet. And Ryan Hall's forecasts are just like, they are outstanding. He's got an AI powered robot that's on 24/7. If you live in an area that's susceptible to tornadoes or stuff like that, you got this little AI robot letting you know when it's coming and where it's coming from. And it also gets you to see that how much of the stuff doesn't even get reported. but he reports it. It's an example of people taking the bull by the horns, making use of the technology that we have available to us now, and making our own thing out of it without without having to go through gatekeepers and do all kinds of ridiculous stuff to be able to do what you want to do. You can just do it yourself now. You know, the advent of AI is both it's a double edged sword, just like everything in life. You know, there are good things that can be done with it. There are also a lot of bad things that can be done with it. No different than anything else. Um, I love AI. I actually have been experimenting a lot with it. I'm no longer in the job sector anymore. I've been retired for 8 years now, and yeah, I'm glad I'm retired. Kind of retired at just the right time. Anyway, this is a short little video, just to it's a companion to my post, which will be going up shortly. You all have a good day and a good night, and enjoy the State of the Union tomorrow. Although I'm sure it's going to be pretty predictable, and I'm sure the Democrats are going to just have fun with whatever they're going to do, because they're going to make a spectacle out of it, no matter what. I'm sure. Well, whatever that's going to be about. But the rest of it, man, just gather your irons, gather your knowledge, ask questions. Do not take anything at face value anymore. Literally, I mean, I hate to say this, but there's actually nothing that I trust anymore. I just don't. Everything that I look at, every time that I look at stuff on this, no, that's bullshit. And half the time, 9 times out of 10, I'm right. Something gets reported as something, and I look it up real quick, and in 10 seconds, like, that's bullshit. So, yeah, I mean, you can't trust any of it anymore, and nobody's watching. I mean, you have people on their own webcams getting bigger audiences than any mainstream or cable news show. Consistently getting, getting hammered and getting more views than they do by somebody sitting on their freaking couch eating bonbons. And they're getting more. And you know what? Because they're being authentic, for one thing. They're not lying. And there's plenty of that going on too on YouTube. But you can kind of tell, who's being truthful and who's playing you. And most of the Democrats are absolutely bad at it. That's what's so funny about watching them. It's like, oh my God, are you serious? Yeah, but that's where we're at. But like I said, we're going to come out of this. We're going to create a lot of our own things. There's a huge upheaval going on. Who knows what happens at the end of it? All I do know is that if the Democrats think they're going to be mounting any serious campaign nationally, I'm going to mention something that I hardly hear anybody talk about. And I'm just going to say this. Let's say your political party, and one of your things that you were 100% behind was taking away the rights of parents who wouldn't transition their underage children. That's it. That was the big dividing line that most people said, whoa, stop right there. That is not going to happen. No matter how you feel about the whole thing, nobody should be okay with the state taking away your kids because you don't want to transition them. And they want to call that child abuse? Sorry. It is where the parents' rights to raise their children the way they want without having to resort to taking them away. That's not a state issue. You don't do that. And that I think that was truly the dividing line. There's like, all the other shit that they're saying is ridiculous too. All the lawfare, all of that horse shit. But the big one was taking away parents' rights for not transitioning their kids when their kids told them that they wanted to. And of course, throw out that old classic line, or I'll kill myself. You know, much as I hate to say it, that's up to the parents to teach that child what is what and what's going on, what is truthful and what isn't truthful. You know, because I'm sure what the kids see is like, oh, but things can be just so rosy if I do this, without actually looking and knowing what that entails. We know what that entails. You know, just imagine that you're a kid and you get trapped up with this idea and you do go ahead and go with it. And then you decide by the time, you know, you're 18, 19, maybe even 20 years old. Like, man, that was not a good idea. I want to go ahead and detransition. Oh, sorry. We can only do that so far. And oh, by the way, you're never going to experience sexual pleasure again in your life. Yeah, that can happen. That definitely can happen. And there is no reversal of that stuff. They try to tell you it is, but it's not. So, yeah, that's the thing. But that's what killed it for them. And now now that has exposed them for in all kinds of other ways as well too. I mean, just look at the way they answer questions or not answer questions, or even talk about stuff. And half the stuff that comes out of their mouth doesn't even make any sense. Sorry, if you don't make sense, how do you expect people to vote for you? You know, you got to be more about something other than just being against Orange Man. You know, there are a lot of things I don't like about him either, but the shit you tried to pull, it goes beyond anything he would ever do. So yeah, that's why I get my vote. Oh, and if you ask me, oh, did you vote for this? Yep, I voted for all of it. All of it. That's it. Let me go ahead and upload my post, upload this video, and we'll see how it looks. If it looks like crap, and maybe I won't. I don't know. But anyway, this is my first video going up with Substack. You all have a nice night and have fun tomorrow. Bye bye.